Hornet, and this is actually true of a lot of two-tail airplanes. So when you get a two-tail airplane, especially if you've got some kind of vortex generator on the front, like a Lex or a Lurx or a Canard or whatever, the idea of it is that as your AOA increases and your wing stops flying kind of naturally, these vortices will come across the wings that'll keep the air attached, like we were talking about turbulent flow. The problem is when you have two tails, that those tails usually have like a vibrational mode, and they'll vibrate, and the G at the top of those tails can be insane. I mean, like hundreds of G's of, it's not a lot of motion, but it's like very high frequency, and so Hornet, like a lot of airplanes, had this kind of like weird wiggling going on. So they're like, no big deal. And so their initial try was to like beef up the base of the tail, but all that does is just drive up the frequency, right? It's like tightening up a guitar string. And so like now it's just doing it at a higher frequency, but it's just as bad, right? So it's like transitioning that. And so they ended up, that's actually how, to back up, that's how the giant Lex cards ended up on the airplane. If you look at the Legacy Hornet, the traditional Hornet, or whatever we're calling it, the old Hornet, if you look up right behind the intakes, there are these giant like trapezoids bolted to the top of the wing, or kind of like to the shoulder of the airplane. And what those are for is the cause of that vibration was actually when they designed the Hornet. It was designed to be, they were going to make two of them. It was competing with the F-16. They're going to make two of them, a land-based one and a carrier-based one. It lost to the F-16 for the Air Force, but it had, in that forward part of the wing, it had little gaps, and those gaps let air get in underneath the wing, and that would re-energize that vortex so that as you got higher in AOA, it would stay sticky and it would stick to the wing. Well, when they developed it for the carrier-based one, they're like, we need more lift, so we're going to fill in these parts of the wing. And that was Boeing that was in charge of a Northrop-designed airplane. And they went to Northrop and were like, we're going to fill these parts in. And as I heard the story, they were kind of like, we recommend that you don't do that. And so they're like, nope, we need to do it. So they filled it in. And then what they found was that the vortices were not energetic enough. So they would get big as they got near the tails, and that was causing the tails to vibrate. And so by putting those big cards kind of on the shoulders of the airplane, that would trip the air and would put energy into those vortices again, so that they would be tight enough so they would go between the tails. I think they go between the tails or wherever the path was, so that they wouldn't vibrate the tails as bad. So that's actually how they fixed it, not by like continuing to just like, put more duct tape around the bottom, like that wasn't the solution.